Brendan Sullivan, number one.
Brendan Sullivan, number one.
I knew. Well, I knew that already, but I heard that
subliminal message to anyone out there.
Was it a week ago or so? Iowa released like a mini hype video for like summer workouts, and I saw somebody on X retweeted or commented or quote tweeted whatever and said, Cade and Brendan in the same promo, because it was like a short promo. They could only feature probably 10 or less players, and they had Brendan and Cade in the short clip. It was, I'm not gonna sit here and act like that's such a big deal, but it is curious. It's something to yab about.
Before we get to the numbers themselves, I'll drop this little nugget that you probably already know, but I was doing the Michigan podcast with Steve Dace. He gave his win totals, his selections for over-unders. I'm not going to spoil it because folks watch the Michigan podcast, but he did select Iowa, either over or under. And I brought up the fact that it's been one of my favorite stats of the offseason. What are you laughing at?
Because I know he took the over. Anybody in their right mind would have taken the over. Go ahead.
We don't know that.
We will. Okay.
But I made mention that, and then we just discussed the style of play. We were talking about the opponents, of course, and so forth. And then I noted that I picked up the stat the other day that there's not been an Iowa quarterback complete at least 60% of his passes since 2015. And obviously in recent years, it's been a struggle to get to like 53%. Brendan Sullivan, 200 passes as a Big Ten quarterback, completing 69% of his passes. This guy may just improve the offense, I don't want to say significantly, decidedly, by just making simple throws that a power 4 quarterback should be able to make.
Now, I will say this. I'm not saying you're wrong, and because I made the statement, I think he's got a chance to win this job. However, Cade McNamara also threw for 64% his big year at Michigan. So now it's Michigan. I think it's a difference, right? 60% at Northwestern is probably more impressive than 60% at Michigan. Yards per attempt probably is fair to look at. But I get what you're saying completely. And if anything, you just hope now you got 2 guys. You don't have one guy that has shown the ability to hit that mark and be productive. You have 2 guys, so you hope they can battle each other or get better. That's the one thing I think about the room. Even last year, had Cade stayed healthy, not saying he couldn't have been good, but we saw what was behind it, right? And I still think Marco Linus has a chance to be really good, but he's coming in as a...
That's love your me. Guy.
I just bringing it up because I'm not trying to rip on anybody. Listen, my point is we saw what was behind Cade last year during the fall. So who was pushing Cade every day at practice besides Cade? That's my point. And when's the last time anybody's been pushing anybody in that room? Like, frankly, who's been pushing who? Because with Nate Stanley, who was behind Nate Stanley? Petrus, his senior year? Who was behind Petrus every year? Guys who have left and have been buried. Alex Padilla, Deuce Hogan, Joe Labus, Deacon Hill. Deacon Hill, I guess, came last year, and he was the one pushing Cade. So now you finally have 2 guys that can potentially push one another, and maybe that makes a big difference. And of course, the difference of having a coach that understands the position and has played the position. So I don't know if the room turns around this year and you see better production. Are you going to give credit here or here? It won't matter, but I think both of them are worth noting.
The last time that they've had 2 quarterbacks in the room that both have proven that they can play at least at a decent level in the big time, since probably those teams we talked about, 08, 09, 10, they had some overlap of good quarterbacks during
2015. 2015? Well, I'm sorry, 2014. 2014 was loaded. In hindsight, for Iowa standards, loaded. You have CJ Beathard, Jake Rudock, and Cody Sokol battling it out for the job. Well, frankly, I'm sorry, I'm getting the years mixed up still. That was 2013. I was headed into 2013. Cody Sokol ends up transferring. If you go back and look at Cody Sokol, who was the 3rd guy on the depth chart for Iowa that year. Let me pull up his stats at Louisiana Tech. He transfers to an FBS school and threw for 3,400 yards, 30 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, and 14. So that was a loaded room in comparison to what we've seen. And then, of course, 2014 was a solid room because you have Beathard and Rudock, and then we know what happened off-season, a miserable showing against Tennessee in the bowl game. Rudock is sort of forced out to some extent. He goes to Michigan, plays very well for the Wolverines, same year that Beathard had a 12-0 season with Iowa. So it's been since then. And I know if no disrespect to Nate Stanley, and I don't even remember who was behind him before like 2019. I don't know who was in that room in 20. Do we want to look that up?
Sure.
Let me look it up here.
Tennessee has not been kind to this Iowa football team.
Well, that's true. yes, that's true.
Although the old timers will follow me on this. No. I'm sorry. That was Purdue. Purdue beat Tennessee in the Liberty Bowl back in the early 80s. Anyway.
And then Purdue had that ridiculous showing against Tennessee in the Music City Bowl.
So Purdue's made up for it.
Okay, so if you go back to, let's just look at 2017, because I honestly don't remember after Beathard graduated who was in that room. Besides Stanley, Tyler Wiegers, Ryan Schmidt, and Peyton Manziel. Yeah, that room. With all due respect, and Wiegers, I think Wiegers did okay at Eastern Michigan. I mean, I got to give the guys credit, Mark. If they're starting at an FBS school, when you compare that to guys like Padilla and guys like Hogan who don't even sniff the field, I got to give Tyler Wiegers his due. He ended up playing 1 year at Western, actually threw for 65%, just under 1,900 yards, 11 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. So that room was as good as any room we've seen here in the last 10 years, or in the last 8 years. And then in 2018, let's see, because he actually left. Was he there in 2018? Yeah, he left for Eastern Michigan 2018. So 18 was probably a bad year. So 18 was Stanley, Petrus, Mansell, and Ryan Schmidt, and Connor Kapisak. So that was when it switched. I think when Tyler Wiegers transferred out, I think that was the beginning of the end. Isn't it ironic that that's about the same time Brian Ferentz took over as offensive coordinator? I find that interesting. Say what you want about Greg Davis. Quarterback play was a lot better under Ken O'Keefe and Greg Davis. And there's no debate on that.
Nope.
2019, I pulled that up as well. So obviously Petrus, Stanley, Padilla, and Kapisak, and Schmidt. I don't even know if Ryan Schmidt, was he even on scholarship? I guess, no, he was a walk-on. So they had 2 walk-ons on the roster. That doesn't make any sense. Anyways, so this might be the first time we see since 2017 we see 2 guys who are viable. And it's not like Wiegers. We didn't know if Wiegers was viable. I mean, these are 2 guys who have proven it at the Big Ten level.
Absolutely. A couple of things come to mind. One would be that our offseason is dwindling, so I don't know if it's going to happen this offseason or next, but I'm still going to nail you down to year after year after year, us marching through the recruiting classes and you giving your analysis thumbnail of each player and what's happened to them.
Okay.
The other would be, oh my, I lost it. I had something else in mind. We've got our Nebraska show coming up next at 7 Eastern. What's going on at from the Hawkeye of the Storm?
Just released an exclusive interview with incoming Iowa women's basketball guard Taylor Strimlow, who was a 4-star out of Wisconsin, from Coach Gary Close's neck of the woods up in the Middleton, Verona area. She was a joy to talk to. We ended up chatting for 30-plus minutes. And loves being a Hawkeye, never batted an eye when Lisa Bluter walked away and Jan Jensen took over. So she kind of talked a little bit about how together that group has been so far during summer workouts. So people haven't went over there and checked out that interview, definitely do that. It's worth the listen. And still have a couple of recruiting videos coming here in the next couple of days. And at some point here in July, we'll be starting to preview groups, individual groups on my channel as well. I know we've done that on this channel, on this show throughout the season, throughout the calendar year, I should say. But I'll start doing that as well. And then in a couple of weeks, we'll be talking Big Ten Media Days. And yeah, we got an email today. Well, yesterday. Was it today or yesterday? Regarding Iowa Media Day. And as expected, Iowa Media Day is on the 9th. And no announcement specifically on the Kids Day. Let me pull this up here. Make sure I have this information accurate. Yeah, Kirk Ferentz was also named to the Dodd Trophy watch list, if you care about that, Mark. So Media Day is on Friday, August 9th. And we assume, it's always been this way, but we assume that on the 10th will be Kids Day and the open scrimmage. So that should be a big weekend here. And how many weeks is that away? Just over, see, what is this? July 9th. Say 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks. Am I right on that? 4 weeks away from the open scrimmage in Kinnick.
Looking forward to it. I will be live every day during all the Big Ten, not just the Big Ten, all the media days, I should say, across the nation. So whenever those kick in, whoever's starting first, it's usually the SEC, and then on through, we'll do a late afternoon live show with whomever we can pull in from those various media days across the country. Also, I expect bullets to be firing for this one. We're matching up Ohio State and Michigan with a deep dive. If you don't know what a deep dive is, Tony Altamore joining us, you will find out. That's going to be on the national channel Wednesday night at 8:30 Eastern time.
Isn't that SEC Big Ten or SEC Media Days thing? Isn't that like this weekend? It's sometime soon. I mean, they don't wait till the end of July, do they?
No, it's not this weekend.
Okay, well, when is it?
It is usually first.
SEC is first?
Yes, typically. And it's all week. It's Monday through Friday.
Let's see, July 15th. So that's a week. That's next Monday.
Wow. Okay. So I'm going to be live starting next Monday